Into Group C we go for the winners match just around the corner. We're back live from Burbank, California as we look to find the third player to qualify to play at BlizzCon next weekend as we look to find the 2016 World Champion. Joining me on the couch this time we have InCon, Nate and Artosis, picked up from the cast I was listening.
That is a takeaway joke, my friend. You're advancing.
I am. I'm getting better and better and better. So, gentlemen, we've had a fantastic day so far. I think these two series have not been too one-sided. I think they've been relatively close between two of them. Hopefully it can continue, but something's telling me, especially Nathanius's looks right now, is this might not be the same as the previous two.
ByuN Stoppable is what his name has become this year, Sean. ByuN is the terror to behold in all matchups. I would say maybe some of the best other Terrans in Korea could have put a stop to him, but he is going to be quite a match for ShoWTime. He has that range we've discussed, but we saw him, as we so eloquently put it yesterday, Dumpster Violet with very standard builds. This guy's been on a tear all year. He's been playing since the very early stages of the beta. He has seen it all, and he plays so much and broadcasts so much of it. You couldn't even try to guess what he's going to do because he does 11 different builds every other game in every matchup. He's insane.
This might be a bit of a cooler day. We were really riding that Neeblit hype train, and then Zest said, no, I'm still one of the absolute best. Obviously, this is not elimination day, so we'll see more of that, but I do have that same sense that Nathanius has here where it's like, ShoWTime yesterday, we're gushing. He's got such a supportive father. Well, it's easy to be a supportive father when your son's winning. Is it easy to be a supportive father when your son gets absolutely demolished on live TV? We'll have to wait and see.
If you don't mind passing the ByuN hype baton over to Artosis, anything to add?
You know, ShoWTime is really good, and he just outplayed Deer. And, I mean, Deer was top 4. ByuN had to go through him, and that was like an okay match in the GSL, to be honest. So I'm looking at the transitive property of beating people in games, and I think it could be close because of that.
Okay.
I wish it worked like
that. I hope ShoWTime has already thought about what he would be doing to prepare for a rematch against Deer, because I think that ByuN is going to be a wall he is not going to get around. It's not going to be any stretch of the means easy, but possible.
ByuN
I'm not
penetrable,
even
I should say.
Yeah, ByuN penetrable.
I wish you would just keep
you know what,
descending
guys?
down the meme.
It's ShoWTime, and
Well,
he's going to have
ByuN.
to really step up.
All right, let's. I think there's one thing we can say for certain, though. When we're looking at this matchup, it's not ByuN versus Violet, that kind of distance between the both of them, surely.
If you say with certain, I actually...
It could be.
Because of this matchup,
Really?
because of how incredibly mechanically difficult this matchup can get, and because of how amazing, like, ByuN actually, I feel really confident talking about, like, really talking him up, because I feel like almost of all the players, like, TY will beat you, but in a grindery way. Like, against Snurchio, it was a very long-distance, pretty cool series. I feel like ByuN is in danger of actually making ShoWTime look way worse than he actually is.
Oh,
but,
dear. Well, it's, again, seemingly the writing's on the wall, but let's talk a little bit about ShoWTime. He's obviously had a fantastic year. He's won a tournament earlier on, around summertime. He comes into this tournament, he started well, he's already picked up a big win. Now he is against it. Is it really completely over for him in this winners match?
No, it's not completely over. Like, I don't know how this is going to look. I do think ByuN is the favorite, of course. Like, his micro is just so good in the matchup, but ShoWTime should know this going in, and like the metagame of that matchup has changed a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's anywhere near as prepared for ShoWTime as ShoWTime is for him, right? ByuN streams a lot, he plays every tournament. You can know how ByuN is going to play, right? But with ShoWTime, it's like, we don't know exactly what type of style he'll end up using here.
And he does have a couple of decent level Terran practice partners. You've got your Marine Lord, you've got your Major who might have come in to help in this. So there are a couple of assistants that he would have, had from these players.
And I still don't think that's enough, because if there's one thing that we saw this year in the WCS circuit outside of Korea, it's that there aren't a huge swath of impressive Terran players that have been competing. The closest you had was Pol, who had probably one of his most mortal years playing outside of Korea. Despite the championship in Katowice, he had some extremely sloppy tournament results. By first going back to Austin, had an extremely rough time.
And he played anti-meta, worth mentioning, too.
And he's done a lot of different weird stuff. This year the Pult that led up to here that couldn't be here, that had to be replaced, he was not the same Pult that we'd seen in previous years. You don't have anybody that comes out as a rock star for these guys to be practicing against. If you were looking against playing a good Terran, right now is going to be the most important, best match that he's played against a Terran. There's nothing even close to this in any of the tournaments he's played this year.
I like hyping it up this way because, A, I do think it's actually true. I think it's actually good feedback. But also, B, if this upset does happen, this would be the biggest upset of the tournament. And it wouldn't be an elimination one, so there would be a chance for recovery. But man, ShoWTime 2-0ing out of this group would be the story of the century.
Yeah. So I know that the game is almost ready. We'll go to that very, very shortly. But let's talk a little bit more specifically about StarCraft itself then. So you know exactly how ByuN plays. Everybody apparently knows how ByuN plays. What are we expecting from him to be doing against ShoWTime?
Ooh. Okay, so ByuN likes a couple of things. First of all, there's the very standard. We see a lot of Terran players like to open up with that straight, almost like in Zuri, like the 2-on-1, the very fast, aggressive drops. ByuN will throw this at you all day. He's very good at the standard game. But ByuN is also the type of player, if we get a map like King Sejong Station, where he will throw out builds like Proxy Factory with Starport for fast Liberators, Mine Drops, and I haven't seen him proxy cheese as much with something like Marines or Reapers, but not as popular against Protoss these days. Thing is, he can do everything. That's always the biggest threat, is he has the range, but his standard game is so good, he may just stick to that like he did against Violet.
I agree with Nate. He can do anything.
Dan?
Here's the thing. I think that ByuN needs to stay away from cheesy plays. I don't think he should be proxying very much, because that is definitely something that ShoWTime has sufficient practice against. I think that ByuN is going to have to win in mid-game to late game, where he's kind of out-microing with a lot of units and out-multitasking all around. So I think if he gets too aggressive, which a lot of Terrans are nowadays, like a lot of Terrans like to be cheesy right now against Protoss, because there is like a plethora of different crazy all-ins out there. I think that's where ShoWTime starts to really shut everything down and get an advantage. But if ByuN is playing the longer game and he's like, okay, I have to have stim, I have to have plus attack, I have to have Marauder slow. Okay, here we go. That is the type of game I think that's going to be very hard for ShoWTime. But the fact that the place where ByuN should beat ShoWTime is in the bigger macro game means that ShoWTime is going to have what he wants there. So I think that this is a little bit closer than what you guys are giving it. But, I mean, ByuN is, he looks really good in the matchup.
Okay, so, I mean, I'd ask for predictions usually at this point of the segment, but I don't think there's really any need.
Not 2-0. Does anyone want to predict that?
I'll take a 2-1.
Okay.
Wow.
I'll take a 2-1.
When did you lose faith in Korea? When did you find that to...
I think it was when I woke up this morning and realized that foreigners were up 10-9.
Whoa! All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, ByuN across the board here. A tournament favourite, no doubt a group favourite here as well. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, let's find out, is ByuN going to steamroll or not?
The reviews are in, and the critics agree. Overwatch is a perfect 10.
Psst, what are you looking at?
It's time to pick a side.
Overwatch. Play it now on PC and console. Rated T for teen.
The StarCraft 2 WCS Global Finals is sponsored in part by Intel, T-Mobile, NVIDIA, and Republic of Gamers.
What's up, guys? Welcome back. I'm Tasteless, joined with Todd, and we're going into this match in just a few moments here. ByuN versus ShoWTime. That's a great match. I've been waiting for ShoWTime to take on some of these Korean beasts of Terrans that are out there, and who better than ByuN? Well, I guess TY as well. Would be nice.
TY is also quite good
to see him face off, but first big test here for ShoWTime is going to be up against ByuN, and man, this is going to be huge there.
All right, we're going to go right into this match. Yeah, actually right now we're good to go. This is ShoWTime versus ByuN in a best of 3. In the upper left, in the red, a Protoss player. He is ShoWTime. That looked like we fell through the Nexus and then landed on his face. That zoom in was so crazy, Todd. In the bottom right, in the blue, our Terran player, a GSL Codes champion. He is ByuN. Right through the command center. We actually see he's inside that command center right there. If that command center blows up, Todd,
if it
dead.
takes off, he's going to fly it for sure.
That's right. He's literally flying that command center in there.
The couch already covered with some of Jave's base jokes as well, how ByuN is super versatile and he can play pretty much any style, do any build, including proxies and stuff. That makes it very hard to face this kind of player. And we already see ShoWTime scouting for any kind of proxies that could have been around his base. So ShoWTime is going to this match knowing how dangerous ByuN can be with some of these proxy builds. And I think he's definitely going to put a lot of emphasis on trying to scout what he's up against and making sure he doesn't basically get taken out here in this series by something sneaky that he wouldn't have expected.
I think the big driving factor that ShoWTime is going to have to watch out for constantly, and it's basic, but that makes it even scarier, is that ByuN has the best control in the world. Right now, you just do not see anybody that can control armies like this. And I don't know if ShoWTime's ever faced off against anything like this. If you guys haven't been keeping up with StarCraft 2, ByuN just won the GSL Codes, the first guy ever to win not on a team.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which is crazy.
It's insane. Like, it really goes to show that it doesn't matter where you are, what race you play. You can, if you practice enough for it, you will be rewarded eventually. You can achieve great things. ShoWTime though, like, I think if he doesn't take any damage for like the early game, the mid game, in terms of losing any probes and all that, going into the late game, I definitely think like it would be beneficial. Not just, for Protoss in general, but for him and his style. He will be able to do really well, but that's going to be the big challenge. We've seen ByuN, he loves to be aggressive.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the stereotypical Terran, but 100 times better. And already against Violate, he was using stuff that wouldn't necessarily, like, if it was done by somebody else, kill the Zerg, but he was just like killing him right out with way more units the whole time.
I mean, ByuN, sometimes he just bops nerds. I mean, he just makes the proper amount of units and controls well enough and just runs you over. And there's been a lot of popular builds nowadays with Terran where you kind of just get in the Protoss's face for a little while, especially earlier in this year. Seemed like a lot of the Protosses, the Adepts were such an intimidating unit that it forced a lot of the Terrans to be on their back feet. So a lot of these Protosses were getting 3 Nexuses, Nexi, right away. But
whoa!
Oh, whoa! That was not supposed to happen. And that means he's going to lose that. Okay.
A bit uncharacteristic, especially for ShoWTime to make this kind of mistake. I don't know what he thought exactly. Like, he just, I guess, was going to cancel a little too late. And then,
well, I mean, I might have to chalk this up to nerves here. That's just basically not a thing. So that may be a bad indicator for what ShoWTime's current mental or emotional state is right now.
And ShoWTime, right now, I think he knows what's going to be headed towards him. The good old, Widow Mine drop, potentially. Actually, it's only Marines right now, but Medivac. So he's getting a Prism. I think he wants to basically defend the first drop, and then go for the counter-attack with Adepts, swap in a bunch of them, and then try and do some economic damage himself. But Liberator is actually being made, and he's going to be sieging his mineral line.
Oh, actually, ByuN might bungle this. He actually... Okay, is he going to be able to pick up the Marines? He does, and he's going to get out. Very important because, like you were saying, with the War Prism coming, there's a very high chance that then ShoWTime, during the next upcoming attack, ByuN won't have enough to defend it. So very important back there that ByuN managed to get away. Also, we saw the observer just get scanned and killed.
Yeah. A very important observer, though, got across the map, saw that tanks were being made, and that from the starports, it was most likely Liberators being made because there is already a Medivac on the map. So I think ShoWTime's going to fully realize that ByuN for now is massing on 2 bases, I wonder if he still chooses to drop Adepts. He can probably anyway, because you can drop this guy, snipe a couple SCVs, and usually escape, as long as there isn't too many units in the area. But from there is a possibility that ByuN does a very strong push.
Oh, that was such a sick dodge. The Widow Mine just under the SCV. That is so cool. Really good reactions there. He actually managed to get away. That was crazy.
Yeah, that was really good micro there from ShoWTime. Liberator, though, is going to siege towards his main, and he's out of position. Mothership Core is towards the natural, and he didn't spot that.
Oh, man. And he's in a pretty good position here. Okay, no probes gun down. He pulls away at the last second.
Overcharge doesn't reach this.
Yeah, he is just out of range. And actually, these Stalkers, I don't believe they can get at the right angle to hit this without being hit. They can't come from the bottom, right? That would be in range?
Yeah, I mean, they can move in, but at least two
Yeah,
of them would die if ByuN doesn't. Yeah, actually, I like the choice as well to sack this and say,
yeah, me too.
I'm going to trade against some Stalkers. Some nice turrets, actually, in the natural base of ByuN, making sure that no War Prism on the right-hand side can fly by.
And
he's still massing on 2 bases, Tasteless.
Yes, he is. He
might
may
go
be
for a
gearing
big
up for an
push.
attack here.
Regardless of if ByuN starts a 3rd base, he's committed a lot on massing out of 2 bases. And ShoWTime, interestingly, goes for Colossus tech here with Thermal Lens.
Okay, so I got something to say about this. It's very subtle, but we've already seen 1 Adept, and I believe it was 2 Stalkers picked off, right? He's already also picked off 2 Observers, which, of course, compels the Protoss to try to make Observers again. That's a little bit less than what Protoss would want to have, and Terran hasn't really lost much of anything. Yeah. So this push, even though it's very minor, might be huge.
Absolutely. Yeah. He forgot to tank here for a second, so he kind of had to fly back and pick that up. But now ByuN is moving forward with a lot of Marines. Keep in mind, Stimpak's about to finish.
Right.
There is not going to be combat shield with this, but +1 will line up nicely as well with when this attack might take place in just a moment. Actually, some Adepts were dropped across the map and got some SCVs, but that War Prism will get chased away.
Oh, okay, he got some force fields coming down here now. Juggling back the tanks. He's going to go ahead and try to get rid of this pylon over here. Again, a very sparse amount of units here for ShoWTime, but I think some of those Colossi lasers actually did a decent amount of damage to those Marines, eliminating some of them. Glaves is almost done. He's going to come in right now. Thermal Lance about to finish.
Yeah, I think ByuN realizes that usually when you push like this, especially if you're not sending in reinforcements as Terran, there's going to be a time when Protoss just has way more than you, attacks into your army that's on the map and crushes it. So he pulls back home before that could happen, which I think was going to be very soon, regroups, and he's basically going to play with that double siege. He's going to have the Liberators plus the tanks really complementing each other very well. Lots of bio on the ground, mostly Marines, that are going to pull back against the Colossus and try and let the tanks and Liberators deal with these Colossi.
Okay, he's coming up now. Remember, best micro in the world here, ByuN. This is about as scary as it gets. He scans up there, sees that ramp may be a little bit tricky to actually get up. By the way, at the bottom of the mini-map here, it looks like we have a possible Warp Prism coming in.
Yeah, and there's a Widowmine in position here to intercept that, so gonna have to be really careful with that. Another Observer, by the way, spots the entire army of ByuN. That's very important to be able to kind of look at your opponent's army, and seize it up. Be able to be like, all right, I need to be worried now. I need to be up the ramp ready to force field, because otherwise, if I take on this army head on, and in this particular case, again, he's facing a very tricky composition. Tanks and Liberators with bio, they really complement each other very, very well. So it's very scary and hard to deal with this kind of army. You need to have a ton of Adepts. You need to have some good AoE, which he already has with the Colossi. But now ShoWTime goes into Disruptors. He's already got 1. He's getting a second one. He's going for his double upgrade. Kind of trying to catch up, to be honest, because ByuN has just completed 1-1 there. He already has an armory, by the way, so he's going to go straight into 2-2. So upgrade-wise, ByuN's actually going to be ahead from just playing that tricky style that he's been playing.
And a beefy ByuN army is always going to be a bad thing. It's funny because a lot of times somebody gets, nice hit there with the Widow Mine. So just 1 Adept right here, right now. ByuN's going to come back here and clean this up. With a lot of players, the bigger their army gets, their control kind of goes down a little bit. It's just more things to juggle. With ByuN, I feel like it's really the opposite. The bigger his army gets, he really is actually better at controlling everything. Speaking of which, ShoWTime actually headed southbound here in the bottom left corner. He may be gearing up to try to poke in here. Remember, guys, if the battle goes badly for Protoss and they're running, usually all the Colossi will get gunned down. We have a decent amount of Vikings already out.
And he sees him moving out. So I think ShoWTime is going to move towards that 3rd command center to try and threaten their make sure ByuN stays in that position and maybe drop some DTs here very soon because there is no turret in the main.
Now the angling here with these Vikings is quite good, and look, once again, he manages to shave down that army. The scary part about ByuN is whenever you're retreating, you are going to lose a few units here and there. And I believe ByuN is actually comfortable enough. He has a drop headed northbound over here that may go up to threaten the top center expansion.
He saw that the entire army of ShoWTime was down there, so I really like this choice here of trying to threaten the 4th base and maybe try and take it out. ShoWTime realized that there were a lot of Vikings, and he didn't have that many Stalkers, so he walked on his Stalker count here. He had one big warp in, now he's up to 14. That's really going to help here with this. And Templar Archives, he's now going up. This can't miss the Observer there.
Oh my god, here we go. There's going to be an attack up here at the top. And he's going to get both of these pylons, it looks like, and then probably the Nexus as well. No Warpins over here.
And ShoWTime has to walk all the way back. He's only in the middle of the map right now, and his Colossi even split away from the rest of his army.
He has some DTs coming up here, but not in time. And a scan even to take out the DTs as well. Unbelievable. Now it's 3 base versus 3 base. You definitely don't want to be even on bases against ByuN. And the truth is, that didn't cost ByuN anything. He didn't have to trade his army into that. He got it for free.
That was really good there. 2-2 was started from both players, but Protoss having Chrono Boost, that's going to finish earlier, so at least ShoWTime really has caught up nicely with this. I thought at the time that Double Forge was kind of ambitious, because I wasn't sure he was going to be able to have enough units, but he had just enough. That's why ShoWTime is so good. He was able to realize that very early, and now that's something that he's going to have going for him. Advanced Ballistic Stars, though. And when you already have enough Vikings to deal with the Colossi there, these Liberators are going to be so scary because it's very hard to actually fight and defend against them with your Blink Stalkers in those very big and chaotic fights. So ByuN still working on that double siege, and that's going to make it even stronger.
Okay, once again, ByuN with this small squad over here in the upper right. Now, he can always poke back in up here. I don't believe it'd be wise to do it now because ShoWTime is just here in the top center waiting. So the Adepts are going to kind of shade over here to the right and probably drive this back, but that may allow ByuN to feel comfortable enough pushing out in the middle if he wants.
Oh, the Prism on the bottom left was actually found, but he's just going to fly away. Getting chased by one single Marine. It's crazy actually right now, like how good both of these players' compositions are. If you look at the army of ShoWTime, he went for 3 Colossi, then into 5 Disruptor, and now he's adding High Templars with Storm Tasteless. He's getting that triple AoE.
That's right, that triple AoE. Yeah, he's really ready to deal with a large ByuN army. Let's be totally honest here. That's really hard to use all 3 of those AoE units at once. I mean, that's one of the things about Protoss that you really, if you're at the top of your game, which abilities do you activate first in what order? How do you have everything hotkeyed and set up right? And it looks like we may actually have the battle beginning up here. I think it would be unwise to try to move in here fully. Nice job shaving off some of those units there with the Disruptors.
That was way more than I thought he might be able to get. What is going on?
That was actually the guy. That was actually the Marauder that got blown up back there. That was the Todd Marauder talking about.
I don't understand. Usually, when you do this move out, Terran will just pull all the way back and make sure they don't get anything blown up. But right now, for some reason, ByuN just like moved out of position and lost quite a few units, like really fast.
Yeah, that was actually an impressive move in here by ShoWTime. He actually came in, did some damage, and basically got out untouched. ByuN, I believe, is going to be headed up north here. We do have a Nexus over here in the upper right as he's continuing to push. Now, there is, I believe, some action in the bottom left. I don't know if that's a drop or what, but he's setting up these liberation zones, and he may, when this army starts to engage, pick up and then drop over possibly to
ByuN is looking to attack on the left-hand side with a huge chunk of units there. He's doing a little bit of a Pult-esque move where you attack in 2 places with big, massive amount of armies, and there's really not much on the left-hand side. The one High Templar that was there gets sniped instantly.
Beautiful Warpins here, gunning down anything that beautiful takedowns of the Warpins here. Eliminating anything that comes by.
High Templar coming in.
He needs to get a scan there. Nice Storm, but he takes out the Nexus. That's going to be a little bit less gas that he's going to be
I'm not sure why
ShoWTime
ShoWTime isn't engaging into the main army. He's really worried about this massive amount of Liberators, and I guess he should be, but because of that, ByuN is going to be taking out another one of those bases.
And you know what? He's close enough to where the Liberators are all set up. This is very easy to push into. And as for as many units as ShoWTime has warped in, he's definitely spent more trying to get rid of this army than what ByuN did to make these Medivacs, Marines, and Marauders. So this is a very bad position here for ShoWTime, and it's really just ByuN kind of outmaneuvering his opponent.
Absolutely, yeah. His composition is just insane as well. ShoWTime's going to come in from another angle, snipe some of these Liberators here pre-fight. That's really good. And 3-3 is about to finish, so that's something that he's going to have going for him as well. He's going to be 3-3 against just the 3-2 of ByuN.
Now, the only thing that can really help to fight up this army, those disruptors over there. Actually, excuse me, this is actually such a big Protoss army. He's going to get some good storms down here, but yes, as long as the Liberators are there, and the Liberators just have to have something underneath them so that they can't be gunned down, it's very tricky for Protoss to get over there. That's why the disruptors do matter. He has to chuck those in there, try to get the Marines and Marauders to move back, blink in, gun those down, and then ideally get back out.
ShoWTime's going to move in there. The disruptors are being pulled back for some reason. He's just fighting this with the 1 Stalkers that he's got, and it looks like he's going to clean up, but behind is ByuN has a much healthier economical position.
Yeah, and I think also, you got to remember, look, their supplies are almost even right now, but I mean,
this is crazy.
He's been beaten up pretty badly here. And actually having the Liberators up here at the north.
He's having to make a void ray to clean this up, because Stalkers, if they get close enough, they're going to get taken out by all these Liberators. So ByuN exploiting his unit's capability to the fullest there.
This is pretty cool, though. The counterattack here by ShoWTime, this may be too much. There's also a counterattack by ByuN up here in the top left. However, there is so many Protoss units over here, I think the entire main might be wiped out. He's going to continue to shoot down whatever he can here in the main. Remember, if you get inside of a Terran's main base and can keep firing down anything that pops out of the barracks, that's usually the easiest way to play the game. Nice storms over there. Again, the Protoss army's been whittled down a little bit, but it's going to be very tough. If ShoWTime can actually hold this position, ByuN may end up getting checkmated here. Anything that pops out, a Terran army is only strong when it's together in a clump. Lone Terran units are basically never ever good.
I think that's one of the best things that ShoWTime could have done there, and he actually catches a bunch of those very important Liberators out of position. This is a big deal there.
Meanwhile, I think ShoWTime's going to win this.
I think across the map he's defended very nicely as well.
Yeah. ByuN's counterattack was not quite clean enough, and I don't know. Let's see how much more damage you can do here. I mean, this is a real problem right now. Now, granted, ByuN is mining pretty efficiently. He's not able to produce and remake his army, so every unit that ByuN has from here on out is super important.
Storm is almost there. One High Templar posturing from the high ground there.
Dude, I think ShoWTime just won this first game.
That was such a crazy game. He moves in from behind with the Stalkers.
Yeah, no, I think he did it, man. Yeah, that's it. GG. Whoa! ShoWTime, remember to lock the front door, guys. ShoWTime just walks right in and trashes the main base. Like, I liked what ByuN was doing a lot, but sometimes you get these players that are being so technical, dropping everywhere, counterattacking, and ShoWTime's just looking at the situation and saying, well, if he's in all these different places at once, you know where he probably isn't? His main.
It's like one of those movies, like, you know what really would surprise them? If with our minimal numbers, we attack them at dawn. And that's exactly what happened. Like, you're absolutely right here. ShoWTime was like, you know what, I'm just going to attack his main. He's doing these fancy plays, leaving Liberators on the top side of the map that I can't attack into. Attacking on the left-hand side with big chunks of bio. What is he going to have at home, really? Moves up the high grounds and finally finds a way to get fights in which he's going to be favored, because he was just too hard to get a good fight out on the map. ByuN every single time was ready with the Liberators. The bio was perfectly placed. And in this case, he just walks out. I'm really surprised. I thought that from the position he was in, he was almost unrecoverable, but ShoWTime finds one of the only way he could have won this game. And this just goes to show how good this guy is and how brilliant that play just was right there.
I think ByuN a couple days ago had an easier time in this phase of the tournament. It was up against Violet, I believe, and he rolled him. And you could see the joy in ByuN's face at that moment, probably thinking, oh wow, that was easy. I mean, we're in the highest stakes of StarCraft 2 in 2016, and
that felt like ladder.
Yeah, and it felt like a ladder game. But ShoWTime is not Violet. ShoWTime is a much scarier opponent, and I think ByuN is letting that sink in. Anyways, guys, let's go to game number 2, ShoWTime versus ByuN. In the bottom left, in the red, winning game number 1, he is ShoWTime. And in the bottom right, in the blue, he has to win this game and the next. He is ByuN.
I have to say, I'm a little bit shocked about that game still.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a Protoss player. Like, I feel like in this position, I almost never would be able to win this sort of game. So, like, to see ShoWTime just go like for this attack and having it work so cleanly. And also, I think ByuN kind of fell apart, to be honest. Like,
well, I think he was getting a little bit ahead of himself.
yeah.
You know, it was almost like it was if StarCraft was fan fiction in a comic book. It's like, he's everywhere, he's doing this, I'm destroying him in every possible way. And then ShoWTime just moves out and goes into the main, and there's nothing there to defend. Also, ByuN was still doing fancy pants counterattacks and all that, but
he was probably as shocked as us to see that counterattack like come to fruition, and slowly it must have started to sink in that, like, really? Like, am I seriously losing this? Is he really in my base right now, taking up everything when I've put in all this work, snipe all of these bases and put myself ahead? But that was for real, and he died to it. And now ShoWTime, he gets a chance to move on in first place here from that group if he wins any of the next 2 maps.
And man,
starting with New Gettysburg here, a pretty decent map, I think, for Protoss.
yeah, no, I think it's not bad at all. And, you know, if he gets out of this group, you can breathe a big sigh of relief, you know. You're that much closer to becoming the world champion. And it's not an easy journey, man. So, on this map, both sides will be tempted to drop each other. In the bottom center of the map, there are these blockers here. So occasionally there's some weirdness going on, or some ways you can sneak around. It's actually harder than if this wasn't completely empty and open to spot for drops. You can be thrown off a little bit if you're not watching carefully. So even though it would seem kind of obvious that you could drop each other's main, it's still a little bit trickier to stop. Sometimes on this map, games are really short, and other times they're really long. It really just depends on, a lot of times, the 2 builds the races pick. Because they both can be aggressive, or they can both be defensive.
Absolutely, yeah. It looks like ByuN is going for one of the typical builds that we see on this kind of map, where it's close by air, so to speak, and you open with 2 medivacs and a lot of Marines that you can drop from very early on to apply pressure, and then go into a 3rd base and everything that you want, basically, from there. So he opened basically with a reactor, made a 2nd barracks, and now we're gonna go see him go basically stay on 2 barracks for a longer time, whereas usually the standard for the most part will be 3, whether it's quickly or after a starport. And you can go into steam pack as well with this. And the moment that you reach 2 medivacs, you can pick up a lot of Marines, go across the map, and start on applying a lot of pressure. And if Protoss sometime is not ready, the games can end very quickly.
Yeah, and of course with ByuN doing that, just how slick he is at moving around. I've said this before, but I mean, when I was casting him in the GSL Codas finals, he made Marauders look like they were broken. He kites so well. I mean, he just juggles everything so beautifully. And it's kind of funny because, you know, when the Marauder first came out, people were kind of good at microing it, but the point where ByuN's at, just these core basic units that Terran get at the start, ByuN is just absolutely perfect at controlling.
Yeah, which is actually very rare in this day and age, right? Because StarCraft has been out for a while, so like when the game was first out, like there were a few Marines, a few guys like Marine King that like showed us how to split and all that.
And stutter step micro.
Yeah, exactly. And people were like, oh my god, you can do that. And
yeah.
like now, years later, this has become standard. Pretty much everybody can do it.
I feel like ByuN is the next level of that.
Yeah,
where we see it, I'm like, whoa, you can actually be that good at controlling your army. And, you know, the truth is, in Game 1, he did control his army really well. He just had it all over the map and damaged him, and didn't confront the fact that ShoWTime might, with his mostly undamaged army, just move in for a counterattack, keep everything together, and that's checkmate.
Yeah, ShoWTime is going for Blink Stalkers there. He gets a War Prism as well. I wonder if he maybe wants to be aggressive, if he maybe hopes that ByuN goes for an attack early on. He sees the double medivac here, picking up a lot of Marines and heading across the map. I think...
Okay, here's what I think he wants to do. I think he actually wants to try to catch the drop with the Stalkers. Blink's almost going to be done, and when the War Prism finishes, he can actually counterattack immediately.
But I feel like ByuN most likely saw that Observer. Like, there's no way with his eagle eye that he missed this. He's way too good for it. He's okay, he's just going to scan, clean it up, and basically tell ShoWTime right now, you have no idea which area I'm going to come from. I can hit you from anywhere.
Now, no, ByuN's kind of stayed back. This is always where, you know, you have to try to use your instincts as well as you can to figure out where your opponent might try to predict that you're coming at. So he's actually going to slow push through the middle, upper middle, I should say.
That's a sick pylon in the main of ShoWTime. Like, it's powering like an entire city.
Oh my gosh. That is the most Artosis pylon. There's so much Artosis pylon potential, man. They blow that up and Artosis is unpowered and can't cast the rest of this tournament.
He needs a tasteless pylon.
He needs a tasteless pylon to back him up. Well, let's see. Let's see if that actually becomes a factor here. It is tucked way back in the bottom left, so it's not the most accessible point. Actually, well, it's the least accessible point.
Yeah. Oh, I love this little harassment that we see. It's not even a big commitment. It's just 2 adepts and a prism, and you can snipe SCVs all over the place. Apply some pressure on a Terran player, and in that case, it even forced the command center not to be made on location.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, these are the little delays that you can cause, and it starts to stack up. ByuN is actually now in the Protoss's turf here, going over this observer, under this observer, and will he actually try to attack in her? I think this would be unwise. It seems like there should be enough to fight
there's
this.
no thermal lens yet, so I've seen this kind of game where Terran steams in, snipes the Colossus, and it's just lights out for Protoss. But against ShoWTime, I expect Guardian Shield to be used on time, Photon Overcharge to help as well.
Okay, really good play there. He has to retreat. So it will be ShoWTime with a third base up and running. The command center, I believe, is almost finished here for ByuN. Just in the natural, that'll be lifted off soon here. But ShoWTime getting a third base up before his opponent. In this matchup, generally, you're both kind of at the same supply. If the game is even, it's not like some cases where Zerg, will be ahead in some way, but it's actually much closer than it looks.
ByuN, he's actually going into one of the only. Oh, I was gonna say he was gonna go into one of the blind spots of ShoWTime, but actually he goes a little bit too low. That observer spots that location. A preemptive overcharge is going to be used here to buy himself a little bit of time, and ShoWTime is going to move back in position to defend against this. Keep in mind he has Blink, he can get those medivacs.
Okay, he does it perfectly right underneath that. And does he actually get it? Yes, he does take out one.
And just like that, ShoWTime now extending his supply lead a little bit more. But across the map, ByuN went for another drop, and remember, the Mothership Core is towards the main base. So I think ShoWTime is going to start splitting units between his main and third base because he realizes that ByuN will keep on doing these attacks here between those 2 places.
Okay, hold up. He's coming back in here. He's moving in now. Only 1 stock here, so the blink under is going to be tricky. ByuN should be able to pick up fairly easily and try to get away. Bruising that medevac just a little bit longer. And, okay, got that cleaned up. Well, this is, what a lot of Terrans are doing nowadays. You can just kind of keep dropping everywhere while the Protoss is on 3 bases. Obviously the Colossus needs to be escorted by, stalkers and the such, because if it's alone, it's like the Ultralisk. It's just a bad unit if it's alone.
And there we go. 1-1 now starts from ShoWTime. So it's similar to last game. He went into 3 Colossi, he's now getting Disruptor. Remember, the next step was High Templars. And ShoWTime, actually that last game wasn't going very well for him. It's really the counter-attack that he went for that helped a lot. The fact that we're on New Gettysburg, I think, will make it easier for him if he were to be attacked in a similar way, because he's going to have a lot of area to move around and prevents reinforcements from gathering up from ByuN. But we'll see. Maybe he just takes to Tempest earlier to try and avoid having to fight that many Liberators before they have like the critical mass with advanced ballistics.
Well, we have Dark Shrine. Dark Shrine. It's there. It's coming. Well, that's going to be a great, end game, tech to have. He can move around. Try to hit as many locations as possible. And that's really where ShoWTime gets to have more of like the role that the Terran has been having for a lot of this game. Looks like ShoWTime going to come in here, just try to get as many SCVs as he can. He gets about as less SCVs than he brought Adepts, so that's not great. And it looks like, Todd, we are just going into the late game.
Yeah.
There was no crazy pushes. There was nothing that was able, where he was able to just take out anything critical. There's no real lead here. We're just going to have to wait and see. Now, ByuN, this is sort of where he's in his element. He's able to drop in so many places because obviously as the game goes on longer, the more territory Protoss has to acquire, the more territory they've acquired, the more locations they can be dropped at and hit at. So we'll have to see if ShoWTime can handle that. When the DTs come out, he can definitely send DTs and some more prisms around and try to continue to do more damage.
Yeah, I just don't feel like ByuN has enough to attack, but this army is still pretty scary. If he gets a very good engagement, in particular the start of the engagement, it could be great for him. He's actually going to steam right in there.
Okay, is this a mistake here by ByuN? The Colossi are in pretty decent positions, kiting back now. The Vikings taking some damage too. Colossi remain, but the Vikings now starting to get lower and lower. Remember, with Blink, he can continue to chase those Vikings. Without Vikings in the game, the Colossi are going to be very difficult for that Terran army to deal with. ByuN perhaps overextending.
Yeah.
as Protoss not only doesn't lose that much, but keeps most of the complexity of his army. He doesn't lose the Colossi, he didn't lose all his sentries or anything like that.
Not the end of the world for ByuN, though.
Right.
I think he realized pretty quickly this wasn't going to work, so he got out of there. And what he does behind this, I love. He just pulls back, picks up everything, scans to see if there's any observer following his movement, sees that there isn't any, and he's going to go for the Doom drop in the main, which, if you're not ready for this, you're going to take a lot of damage, but then realizes that ShoWTime is not going to be out of position. He kind of smelled this was maybe gonna hit him.
Okay, nice warpins here. With ByuN in the middle of the map, this is very difficult to deal with. It looks like already 10 SCVs have been picked off. And of course, the warpins can continue here. ByuN actually in the center of the map now pulling around. And
that's going to kill a lot still. Look at his adepts transferring into the natural base of ByuN now. And he's actually walking back all the way home.
Yeah, landed Vikings. That's not going to be helpful against that Colossi later on. What is happening to ByuN, man?
He's
this is not good. ByuN,
Yeah.
I thought this was going to be really one-sided, but I was wrong. Look at this.
It is, but the other way around in this second game.
Yeah, right. Well, it's not over yet, but 176 supply to 153. I mean, that's a very good place to be as ShoWTime. Now, granted, I think pushing across this map is going to be a little bit trickier than the other map we had in Game 1.
ShoWTime finds himself on 73 probes against 44 SCVs. So sure, there is mules and all that. And actually, ByuN is still ahead in upgrades, by the way. Like 2-2 is not even finished yet for ShoWTime. It's about to finish. ByuN started 3-3 earlier. I'm not sure if taking a fight now would be the best idea for ShoWTime.
Yeah,
but
I have to agree with you.
He has high Templars with Storm against no Ghost, so it feels like even, like if supply-wise, they're kind of equal on army. Like he's actually, it might be very good because ByuN's not re-maxed out yet.
He's got the disruptors here too. Now, but look at that arc. He's saying, come at me.
Last game, ByuN was so far ahead in army costs,
right?
And still lost, and now they are fairly equal.
But again, if Protoss starts to lose his fight, in both these matchups, a lot of times if one guy starts to lose a fight, then the other guy ends up chasing you down and taking out all your important units. We also have this big drop. Okay, huge drop down here in the bottom left. We have cannons already in place, but that's certainly not going to be enough. He instead turns now, going to the natural.
I think ByuN is starting to realize that he needs to make something big happen if he wants to win this game.
Oh my God.
And he's going to ignite a massive base trade.
He's coming in again. And this game may be the same game that we had in game number 1. Let's see. He's now going to go back to the main. Also, of course, ShoWTime has the option to, instead of going into the main, head up north and start taking out the 3rd and 4th base. And that's exactly what he's doing.
ShoWTime is going to be so much faster at taking out these bases. Even though ByuN has got a huge chunk of army across the map, taking out this one Nexus there. Look at ShoWTime. He's remaking gateways on his 4th base. He's got a high Templar there ready to storm.
I can't believe it. I think ByuN might lose this. He's down to 123 supply. He's supply blocked. ShoWTime at 176. As you said, Todd, already remaking those gateways. Oh! So many units bruised, then taken out back there. And that final bit of damage, ByuN trying to hang on. Remember, Terrans can lift their buildings in these base trades, something Protoss just can't really deal with. So the fact that, as long as he can try to take out everything over here on the left side, Protoss might not be able to make anything over on the right. I don't know, though. If he loses all the command centers or runs out of scans, the DT can clean everything up as well.
Yeah, and I think right now that's kind of what's happening. There is no scan available here for ByuN, and this DT is going to town on these last few units of ByuN across the map. I'm sure he would love to force something like a draw. I think by now ByuN must be starting to realize that it will be so hard for him to win this game, and it's very unlikely. But ShoWTime is still mining a decent bit. I love that he remakes Mothership Core for overcharge.
Yeah. No, this is
actually ByuN's got overeager. He's trying to retake the natural base.
Oh my God! ShoWTime's going for it. He blinks in here. He's gunning down the Liberators. The one Liberation Zone not even set up. It looks like we have to use his SCVs. I don't think there's enough.
There was a blind spot here. Liberators couldn't shoot in that one area where Stalkers set up.
Yeah, you're right. So he snuck in there, actually managed to do the damage while ByuN wasn't able to deal the damage back. There is a counter drop, however, headed over to the left side of the map. If we can do a quick check here and observe it, I don't know, is there any other hidden Protoss buildings on the map on the left side? Because that's a long walk to get back home.
There's only that one Nexus on the natural of ShoWTime that's mining.
That's it,
still
right?
got a few minerals. It's not that many. It's like less than
But
200.
at the same time, I don't think that ByuN has any floating buildings that can actually get away, right?
Oh,
he needs to lift this off now, like yesterday.
Yeah. He might be able to force a draw. If he kills all these probes, there is no potential for a Stargate and Void Ray. But I guess War Prism still would be an option, but then if he...
Sure.
He could have taken the island. Bjorn could have taken the island.
Does he have War Prisms? Hold on a second. Checking here. There are no War Prisms in the game. Oh my god, he did it! GG!
Wow.
Crazy. I feel like I'm in a parallel universe right now, Todd.
This is unbelievable. Bjorn could have just
Wow.
lifted, taken an island, and kind of been safe on it, but no,
It's
he
the
just...
era of the non-Koreans. They're coming back. They're catching up. Really great job there by, ShoWTime. ByuN just was not able to...
He was not prepared.
Well, it almost seems like he prepared so much for this multitasking attack. Essentially, ShoWTime won in the same way 2 games in a row against ByuN, the most recent GSL Codes champion. Oh my god, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we'll have an interview and see how ShoWTime's feeling now that he's managed to crush ByuN 2-0. Stay tuned.
Absolutely amazing. I am still speechless after that amazing victory we just saw with ShoWTime defeating ByuN 2-0. I mean, ByuN is ranked #1 on a league like this. It's not the result I think a lot of people would have predicted. What is it like? This is absolutely tremendous for you to go up against a player who's supposed to be one of the very best players at this game. And obviously, you've shown your skill time and time again throughout the year. But finally, when it matters most, against a player that is supposed to be at the very peak of this game, and to beat that player, what is that like?
Feels pretty good, I would say. Like, going into the match, I was not really sure what to expect, to be honest, like how good he really is. But I think I was just really good prepared against him, and he did exactly what I expected him to do. So, yeah, I mean, it feels really good.
When you say that he did exactly what you expected him to do, then does that mean when it came to preparing against him, you just studied a lot of his VODs? Were you preparing your strategy specifically against what you thought he would do?
Yeah, I watched like pretty much every game there is, and he played a lot of games. Like he plays every online tournament pretty much, and of course GSL, and he wasn't SSL, but GSL of course. And yeah, I mean, I watched like his series against Cess from Casper Cup, and I kind of realized he's a bit weak against quick Colossi play, I think, because he relies a lot on really making something happen early on, like just killing your opponent or doing like game-ending harass damage. So I was just like playing really, really safe early on and getting to Colossi, and then longer game I feel always pretty good against Terran.
Well, in that first map, it did seem a little bit dangerous for you. He was able to snipe your 4th Nexus, and then he came around and sniped your naturals, and really abusing the fact that your army was clumped for a lot of that map. So when you were in that situation and it was looking kind of dicey, what made you make that decision to move on and into his base?
Like, he sniped my 4th base because he killed like 4 observers of me, and since I was going Colossi, I couldn't really remake them too much, so I had like no map vision really. And my army was like I was a bit scared of him going through the middle of the map because that's a really strong point for Terran, like setting up siege tanks and liberators. So I wanted to go for counterattack all the time to prevent that. And he just abused that really good, like killing my Nexus. And for some reason, a lot of my games end up this way, like me losing a lot of economy but having like a stronger army. And yeah, I mean, he took like a kind of bad fight, I would say, losing all his liberators and taking some big disruptor hits. And I just had to go for it at this point. And I just wanted to kill like all his production, because that's basically it for Terran then. So yeah.
And speaking of just having to go for it, a similar sort of thing happened in Game 2. So when you saw that he had this huge drop on your base, I mean, what was going through your mind? Because at that point, it becomes a little bit crazy.
I think it was just desperation from him, really. Like, I shut on everything he did. Maybe lost a few probes early on, but it wasn't a big deal. So he had to do something. Like, he couldn't take a fight. So I was kind of expecting the drop, but I had DT, so for base rate, it's way better for me because I kill his CCs and he has no scans, and that's it, basically.
Well, with this win, you've not only defeated ByuN, the GSL champion, you also defeated Deer, also had top 4 finishes at GSL. So moving forward, I can't help but feel like this must give you a huge confidence boost headed into that top 8.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, ByuN was one of the scariest opponents here. I think TY is also really scary. So those twos are kind of like, I wanted to avoid them. But now that I beat ByuN, I guess I can take on anyone. So, yeah.
So you just mentioned TY. So you're not scared about Dark or Zest?
Not about Cess, but I think Dark could be a bit hard. Like, I've played a few later games against him, and it was close games, but he won them. But yeah, I think Dark is probably scarier.
All right, then. Well, congratulations again. Absolutely amazing series. And with that, it will be ShoWTime joining Dark and Zest in the top 8 here at the WCS Global Finals.
Well, what a victory that was from ShoWTime. A German player all the way from a small little town has now made his way to the global finals and has taken down Deer 2-0 in the opening match, and now he's taken down ByuN 2-0 as well. In Control, I know you want to jump right in.
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning of this, we all kind of felt that we knew ShoWTime was really steaming towards that 2-0 victory, and he just, something about it, you know, I just had a sense. I was like, ByuN doesn't stand a chance, man. It's going to be super good.
We knew he had it in him all along.
Yeah.
Autosis, back down to earth. You did say it would be closer than the ByuN Violet series, but I don't think anybody expected that.
But no, I mean, ShoWTime is a really good Protoss, and I guess he's showing us just how good he is. Obviously, it's kind of surprising to see like a dominating 2-0. But Jeff and I were actually kind of laughing about this. He had Colossus, Disruptors, and High Templars.
You can't control that army, dude.
It's uncontrollable. I guess he has the best micro. Like, there's nothing harder in StarCraft 2 than trying to make those 3 units play well together. Like,
a little
it's so
clip note
hard.
comes up when you build those 3, and they're like, "Hey, sir, did you mean to do that? Like, don't
shouldn't
do
you
it
leave
too
one
much,
of these at home?" Like,
you built 3 AoE units.
But even on top of that, though, like we joke about all the AoE, but actually, I really feel like it was the Colossus specifically. I feel like a player like ByuN, who does prepare so much, obviously has encountered Colossus, like you will face it, but really it's been used in the PvT matchup lately as like a 2-base timing attack, or yeah, you'll mix it in, but it's just straight to Templar or something like that. But Disruptors specifically with Colossus make it so weird. He was like constantly being very protective of his Vikings. It just, he did not really know how to deal with those Colossus. I mean, he over knew how to deal with the Colossus is actually the point I'm making.
And if you look at map 1 here specifically now, it really did look like ByuN was leading and going to win.
There's some really nice things that were happening during that push towards the front, but that army starts to push him back after he kills the natural. He leaves all of his medevacs over with this attack once it's wrapped up, and he leaves 6 of his liberators at that north base blocking gas. So he has no way to protect his production, and big kudos to ShoWTime for recognizing the opportunity to get on top of those barracks. And that's one of the best ways to shut the Terran player down, because of the way that things rally out. And also the awareness with these observers in the next game to continue to stop everything.
But ShoWTime just constantly had his observers in the right places. He split his army fairly well. A lot of times we'll see players like, yeah, you defend the main, but then you lose your third. Can't lose a third in this situation. He holds on to the third, evacuates the probes, and then here's him pushing it back. And then this Warp Prism, it doesn't actually live because there are Vikings out there, ironically. This is actually where their role is kind of good. But it gets on top of the production again, and it gets into a base tradey situation. And I love the realization here from ShoWTime where he's like, hang on, I got a Dark Shrine. You've only got like these 2 or 3 orbitals. If I can eliminate your ability to detect them, we can go to the base trade, and yes, you can float your buildings, but if you can't see the Dark Templar, I will win through attrition.
Yeah, you know, looking at it overall, like stylistically, I feel like ByuN definitely should have had more Liberators. I think, that's maybe a little bit of a problem. And looking at like the type of shape his PvT is in right now, it's very, very good. But I think this would look a lot different against TY if they end up hitting in that round of 8 or maybe even the round of 4. I think that's going to be a lot tougher for him than the ByuN style that we saw here, where he's more active with the micro. It turns out he gets so much splash damage, the micro doesn't do very much. But you know, maybe Liberators for ByuN would have helped, and I think that, you know, TY might match up better against ShoWTime.
I don't even feel confident to make any predictions about ShoWTime again, though. We were like, he's going to be, you know, I thought we felt like he was going to beat Deer and it was going to be a good series, but he actually just dominated him. And then ByuN, you know, obviously, I in particular took it over the top. I was like, 0% chance, lol, and I was so wrong. And he played rock solid. Like, yes, perhaps the Colossus did throw off ByuN, but it's not like that's some kind of weird, cheesy play. It was something that was very formulaic to what he did. He did the same thing in both games, and it did throw ByuN off, but he then also, like I said, was on top of the scouting, kept a Warp Prism going, went for this weird composition of all AoE, by the way, which he can actually make work, and that should be horrifying, too.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I take out of that series is the composition really seemed to throw off what is normally the best Terran plan, which is you get your Marines and Marauders, do your harass, ByuN's great at all of those things, but we saw an extremely low number of Liberators throughout that series. You only got the good number towards the end of the Frozen Temple game, but as I said, he left all of them covering 2 Assimilators and a Mineral Patch at the end while his whole entire army was being routed back to his base. And as good as Bio can be, it's best when it's out on the map, poking and prodding. Liberators are your core unit for Legacy of the Void. They are Terran's best unit, and when you're being forced to build Vikings, which have very little utility versus anything other than the Colossi.
Forced. I think we all kind of agree that's probably the wrong reaction.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that building that many Vikings was the right choice myself, but it's just one of those things where maybe ByuN wanted to keep that mobile army, didn't want to have to constantly set his Liberators and reset them, and thought that he could out-micro ShoWTime. And then that just goes back to ShoWTime's ability to use those Colossi in conjunction with the Disruptors and Storm.
Well, certainly ShoWTime has a really different style than the Korean Protosses that ByuN plays against, so I think that might have thrown ByuN off. Like, against most Korean Protosses, the style ByuN played with the Vikings actually would have done very well because they like to go up 5-6 Colossus and stuff. But something I've noticed that's kind of funny is, like, okay, there's like 4 Koreans we're talking about, which were the 4 that are playing today, right? And then everyone's forever now has been talking about Neeb and Nurchio. But nobody in the tournament looks better than ShoWTime so far.
Wow.
Nobody in the tournament.
He did 2-0 Deer, right? So he's 4-0 so far?
Yeah.
Zest did not look better, right? I mean, TY did look fantastic. Yeah, ByuN looked so good against Violet, but I mean, that was one side. No one actually looks better than ShoWTime.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that he looks like better than everyone, but you can't actually say, Jeff, are you understanding?
No.
That not one,
nobody
there isn't a person who looks better than ShoWTime.
I'm saying that, like, preach thing, you know, like, I agree with you. That's a really good point. In their games, who has looked that dominant? I think it's ByuN versus Violet for, like, the most, if you're putting up, like, the highest severity of domination, that's it, I guess. But in terms of just clean, mechanically sound, won all their games, it's ShoWTime.
It's crazy to think. I mean, if you were to look at the tournament page on the internet and look at the results, and you look at it now and you're like, hold on a minute, let me refresh because this can't be right. And you're going to hit that refresh button, and then Alaze's winning games, Nurchio's winning games, ShoWTime's winning games, Neeblet's winning games. It's not what anyone expected.
Yeah. It really goes to show how crazy this tournament has been, because the biggest thing that you take out of that isn't just that these guys are winning, but it's that you right now have Alaze in a better position than Nurchio. ShoWTime, obviously, you know, the best position so far. And everybody coming into this, if you ask who's the strong guys, who's to look out for, okay, yeah, we know that ShoWTime's good, we know Alaze's good, but you really were looking at Neeb and Nurchio to be the guys, and ShoWTime stole the show.
Yeah, indeed, and that's our 3 players now that have guaranteed their spots to play at BlizzCon. It's Dark, Zest, and now ShoWTime will be 100% playing next weekend for the top 8 to see if they can have a shot at the World Championship. But that leaves us with one final game left to come. Just around the corner, it's going to be TY versus Alaze. Do make sure to join us on social media while we go for this quick break. You can use the hashtag WCS2016. You can follow the @StarCraft account. And also use the YouTube channel. You can go to youtube.com/StarCraft. And if you haven't seen, it might be a good time to do so. Perhaps look at the WCS Signature Series specifically for ShoWTime after his remarkable win. We'll be right back with the next game.